Right now, somewhere in America, a 68-year-old woman is sitting in her optometrist's office, hearing four words that will quietly devastate her. We'll just keep watching. Her name is Regina. She's a retired teacher. She came in because things looked a little blurry at the center. Her doctor found early drusen deposits forming under her retina, the first footprints of dry macular degeneration, and then sent her home with nothing. No treatment, no plan. Just a follow-up appointment 6 months away and a pamphlet about vitamin supplements she didn't need. What Regina didn't know, and what her doctor never mentioned, is that right inside her grocery store, there are 7 foods with more clinical evidence behind them than most of the supplements lining the shelves of her local pharmacy. Foods that work at the cellular level. Foods that target the exact biological mechanisms destroying her vision. Foods that cost less than $1 a day combined. And here is what makes this even more infuriating. The research isn't hidden. It's sitting in peer-reviewed journals. It's been studied in randomized controlled trials. Scientists have known about these mechanisms for years. But the U.S. eye care industry generates $46 billion annually. The supplement market alone pulls in $3.4 billion every year. And none of that money gets made when the answer is a bag of ground flaxseed and a carton of eggs. So today, we are going to cover everything they are not telling you. We are going to talk about why vision loss after 60 happens in the first place, the hidden connection between your blood sugar and your retina that almost no mainstream eye health video ever explains, the truth about those ARED supplements that millions of seniors are spending $30 to $50 a month on, and then we are going to go through all 7 of these foods one by one, ranked by clinical evidence, with the exact science behind each one explained in plain English, plus a complete 7-day meal plan showing you exactly how to put them all together. Stay until the end, because the number 1 food on this list works through 4 completely separate biological pathways simultaneously, and most people have never even considered it an eye health food. Everything in this video is backed by named clinical studies and published research. This is not opinion. This is not wellness advice from a blog. This is science that has been sitting in the literature for years, waiting for someone to actually explain it to you. Let's start with what is actually happening inside your eyes right now. Your retina is remarkable. It is the most metabolically active tissue in your entire body, not your brain, not your heart, your retina. Per gram of tissue, it consumes more oxygen than any other organ you have. And that level of activity comes with a serious price. All of that oxygen consumption generates something called free radicals. Think of it like the exhaust from a running engine. These free radicals cause oxidative stress, essentially a kind of biological rusting, that damages retinal cells continuously every single day. When you are young, your body handles this beautifully. There is a layer of cells behind your photoreceptors called the retinal pigment epithelium, the RPE. Think of these cells as the cleaning crew of your retina. They clear out toxic byproducts. They recycle nutrients. They protect your photoreceptors from damage. They are extraordinary when they are working well. But after 60, the cleaning crew slows down. And when the cleaning crew slows down, waste starts to accumulate. That waste builds up into deposits called drusen, small yellow spots that form underneath the retina. You cannot see them. You cannot feel them. There are no symptoms. But those drusen deposits are quietly choking off the blood supply to your photoreceptors. And when photoreceptors get starved of blood and oxygen long enough, they begin to die. That is age-related macular degeneration, and it is currently the leading cause of irreversible vision loss in adults over 60 in the entire developed world. 200 million people are living with it right now. By 2040, that number is expected to reach nearly 300 million. And here is the part that most eye health videos never tell you. By the time you notice your central vision starting to blur, the damage has already been happening silently for years. There are no early warning signs, No pain, no obvious changes. Just a slow, invisible process eating away at the center of your sight until one day, the damage is impossible to ignore. Which means that if you are over 60 and watching this video, the time to act is not when you get a diagnosis. The time to act is right now. But before we get to the 7 foods, I need to explain something that changed the way Regina thought about her vision. And honestly, it might be the most important piece of information in this entire video. The damage to your vision is not starting in your eyes. It is starting in your blood. Here is what I mean. Your retina is fed by the most delicate, fragile capillaries in your entire body. These are microscopic blood vessels that are extraordinarily sensitive to one thing in particular: blood sugar levels. When your blood sugar is chronically elevated, even at pre-diabetic levels, even at borderline levels that most doctors wave off as not quite a problem yet, something called glycation begins to happen. Sugar molecules attach themselves to proteins in your blood vessel walls. This thickens those walls. It makes them stiff. It makes them leak. And eventually, it causes those fragile capillaries to close off entirely. When a retinal capillary closes, the section of retina it was feeding gets starved of oxygen. And your body, trying desperately to fix the problem, does something that makes things significantly worse. It grows new blood vessels. But these new vessels are fragile and leaky. They bleed into the retina. They scar tissue. They destroy the very photoreceptors they were supposed to save. That process has a name: diabetic retinopathy, and it is the leading cause of new blindness in American adults between the ages of 20 and 74. But here is the part most people miss entirely. You do not have to be diabetic for this to be happening to you. Chronic borderline blood sugar, the kind that millions of seniors have and most do not even know about, is enough to start damaging those capillaries. And then those damaged capillaries weaken the RPE. And a weakened RPE allows drusen to accumulate faster. And accumulated drusen accelerates macular degeneration. It is all connected. Blood sugar damages capillaries. Damaged capillaries weaken the cleaning crew. A weakened cleaning crew lets the waste pile up. The waste pile chokes the photoreceptors. And slowly, your central vision disappears. This is why the 7 foods we are about to discuss were chosen specifically. They do not just target one part of this problem. They target both the oxidative stress angle and the blood vessel and blood sugar angle simultaneously. That dual targeting is exactly why they outperform most supplements clinically. But first, let's talk about the supplement market, because if you or someone you love is currently spending money on eye health supplements, there is something critical you need to hear. The U.S. eye supplement market is worth $3.4 billion annually. The centerpiece of that market is the AREDS formula, a combination of vitamins and minerals that was studied in a landmark clinical trial called the Age-Related Eye Disease Study. And based on the marketing, you would think these supplements are the gold standard of eye health protection for everyone over 50. Here's what the marketing does not tell you. The AREDS study found that these supplements reduce the risk of progression from intermediate AMD to advanced AMD by 25%. That is a real finding. That is meaningful for the right person. But, and this is a significant but, that benefit applies only to people who already have intermediate AMD. If you have early AMD, the AREDS supplements did not show a statistically significant benefit. If you have healthy eyes and are taking them preventively, there is no clinical evidence supporting that use at all. Millions of seniors without a diagnosed case of intermediate AMD are spending $30 to $50 every single month on supplements that the science does not support for their situation. That is not a small thing. That is billions of dollars flowing out of seniors' pockets and into supplement companies' accounts, based on marketing that carefully and deliberately stops short of telling the whole truth. And it gets worse. Many AREDS formulas contain 80 milligrams of zinc oxide. The adult safe upper limit for zinc is 40 milligrams, double the safe limit. And high-dose zinc suppresses copper absorption, which can lead to copper deficiency, which causes anemia and neurological symptoms that can actually mimic vision loss. Some newer formulas add copper to compensate, but most labels do not explain any of this in terms the average consumer would understand. This is not fringe information. This is in the clinical literature. This is what nutritional biochemists and research ophthalmologists know. It is just not what gets said in supplement advertisements. The 7 foods we are about to cover contain the necessary nutrients in forms that are bioavailable, balanced, and come without these risks. And combined, they cost less than $1 a day. Let's start with number 7, spinach. If you have ever heard that leafy greens are good for your eyes, this is exactly why. But the mechanism is more specific and more fascinating than most people realize. Spinach contains the highest concentration of 2 compounds called lutein and zeaxanthin among all commonly available foods in the United States. These 2 carotenoids do something extraordinary inside your eye. They accumulate in the macula and form what scientists call the macular pigment. Think of the macular pigment as an internal pair of sunglasses built directly into the center of your retina. It absorbs harmful blue light before it can damage photoreceptors. It neutralizes the free radicals we talked about earlier before they can cause oxidative damage to your RPE cells. And just like the RPE itself, this macular pigment thins as you age. After 60, you are losing this internal protection at exactly the same time your cleaning crew is slowing down. That is a dangerous combination. A study published in the journal Investigative Ophthalmology and Visual Science found that dietary lutein intake from food sources, not supplements, was associated with a 43% reduced risk of advanced macular degeneration. 43%. From a nutrient sitting inside the spinach at your grocery store. But here is the critical thing that most people get completely wrong about spinach and eye health. And this mistake means they are getting virtually no benefit from the spinach they are already eating. Lutein is fat-soluble. That means your body can only absorb it in the presence of dietary fat. If you are eating a spinach salad with fat-free dressing, you are absorbing almost none of the lutein. None. The lutein is there. Your body just cannot access it without fat to carry it. If you lightly cook spinach and eat it with a drizzle of olive oil or sauté it in butter, lutein absorption increases dramatically. That one change, adding fat to your spinach, can be the difference between getting the protection this food is capable of providing and getting essentially nothing. Regina started adding cooked spinach with olive oil to her meals 3 times a week. Within months, follow-up measurements showed her macular pigment optical density had measurably improved. Not anecdotally, measurably. Number 6, eggs. Now, if you are someone who stopped eating egg yolks because of concerns about cholesterol, I want you to hear this clearly. Multiple large meta-analyses published in recent years have found no significant link between moderate egg consumption and cardiovascular disease risk. The old dietary cholesterol fear has not held up to the weight of modern evidence. And what you have been missing by avoiding those yolks is extraordinary. Egg yolks contain lutein and zeaxanthin just like spinach does. But here is the difference. The bioavailability of lutein from egg yolks is 2 to 3 times higher than from spinach or from supplements, 2 to 3 times. The reason is the fat matrix inside the yolk itself. The cholesterol and phospholipids in the yolk essentially pre-package the lutein for absorption. Your body does not have to work to access it. It is delivered in the most bioavailable form possible. But that is not the only reason eggs made this list. Egg yolks are also a significant source of zinc, the same zinc that is essential for RPE enzyme function, the cleaning crew we talked about, clearing the toxic byproducts from your photoreceptors. And unlike the synthetic high-dose zinc oxide in ARED supplements, the zinc in eggs comes in a form and dose that works with your body rather than overwhelming it. Eggs also provide retinal, active vitamin A, which is critical for the rod photoreceptors responsible for your peripheral vision and your ability to see in low light. We will talk more about vitamin A in a moment, but the active form in eggs is immediately usable by your body in a way that plant sources of vitamin A are not. A clinical trial demonstrated that consuming 2 eggs per day for 12 weeks significantly increased macular pigment optical density with no adverse effects on blood lipids in healthy adults. Regina combined her cooked spinach with scrambled eggs every morning. The fat from the eggs enhanced the lutein absorption from the spinach. The zinc and retinol from the eggs supported her RPE function directly. 2 foods working synergistically in a single meal. Number 5. Wild-caught salmon. Your retina is made of fat. Specifically, a type of fat called DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, makes up more than 60% of the fatty acid content in your retinal photoreceptors. That is not a small detail. The structural integrity of the membranes that allow your photoreceptors to actually function depends on an adequate supply of DHA. When DHA levels decline, photoreceptor membranes become rigid. Signal transmission slows. Low light vision deteriorates. Age-related night vision loss accelerates. Wild-caught salmon is the richest common food source of both DHA and its companion omega-3 fatty acid EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid. A 12-year cohort study found that participants with the highest omega-3 intake had a 38% lower risk of developing late-stage macular degeneration compared to those with the lowest intake. But EPA does something beyond just structural support. It drives the production of specialized molecules called resolvins and protectins. These are not anti-inflammatory in the way that an ibuprofen is anti-inflammatory, suppressing inflammation by blocking a pathway. Resolvins and protectins actively resolve inflammation. They go in and clean it up. Chronic low-grade retinal inflammation is one of the mechanisms that accelerates AMD progression, and EPA is essentially sending in a resolution team rather than just putting up a wall. Now I need to be specific about something because this distinction matters enormously. Wild-caught salmon and farmed salmon are not the same food in any clinically meaningful sense. Farmed salmon is fed a grain-based diet. Grain feeding changes the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio in the fish's tissue dramatically. Farmed salmon has significantly lower omega-3 content and significantly higher pro-inflammatory omega-6 content than wild-caught salmon. You could be eating farmed salmon regularly, believing you are getting the eye benefits of omega-3, and actually be consuming a food that worsens the inflammatory environment in your retina. Look for wild-caught Pacific or Alaskan salmon. Prepare it by baking, grilling, or poaching. Avoid frying in seed oils, which introduce exactly the pro-inflammatory omega-6 fats you are trying to avoid. 2 servings per week is the target intake supported by the research. Regina added wild salmon twice a week to her routine. She baked it with lemon and herbs, simple, inexpensive, and providing the DHA and EPA her photoreceptor membranes genuinely needed. Number 4. Sweet potatoes. Before we talk about what sweet potatoes do for your vision, I want to address something that does not get nearly enough attention in eye health conversations. Night vision loss and fall risk in seniors. Many older adults assume that difficulty seeing in dim light is just a normal part of aging that cannot be addressed. But a significant portion of age-related night vision decline is driven by something very specific and very correctable. Subclinical vitamin A insufficiency. Not a clinical deficiency, not a disease. Just a nutritional shortfall that has a direct and measurable impact on how well your eyes adapt to darkness. Here is the biology. Inside your rod photoreceptors, the cells responsible for peripheral vision and low-light vision, there is a molecule called rhodopsin. Rhodopsin is your night vision molecule. And rhodopsin cannot be regenerated without vitamin A. Every time your rods are exposed to light, rhodopsin gets bleached out and needs to be rebuilt. Vitamin A is the raw material for that rebuilding process. Without enough vitamin A, your rods cannot reset fast enough. You walk into a dim room and stay blind longer than you should. You trip, you fall. Orange-fleshed sweet potatoes provide more than 700% of your daily beta-carotene needs in a single serving. Beta-carotene is the precursor to vitamin A. Your body converts it to retinol on demand. And sweet potatoes are affordable, widely available, and genuinely delicious in a way that makes dietary compliance easy. But there is the same absorption rule we saw with spinach. Beta-carotene is fat-soluble. Eating a baked sweet potato with no fat means you are absorbing a fraction of what it contains. Adding butter or olive oil increases beta-carotene absorption by 200 to 600%. That range is not a typo. Up to 6 times the absorption simply by adding a small amount of fat. Many seniors have been on low-fat diets for decades, often based on dietary guidelines from the 1980s and 1990s that have since been substantially revised. If you have been eating sweet potatoes or leafy greens without fat for years, thinking you were being healthy, you may have been systematically underabsorbing the very nutrients your eyes most need. Regina added baked sweet potato with a pat of butter to her dinner 3 nights a week. Her vitamin A status improved measurably on follow-up blood work, and she reported noticeably better adaptation when moving from well-lit to dimly lit environments. Now, before we get to the top 3 foods, which are where the really advanced science gets interesting, I want to give you a moment to think about something. Everything we have covered so far is whole food. Everything we have covered so far works synergistically with the other foods on this list. Spinach works better with the fat from eggs. Sweet potatoes work better with butter. Wild salmon's DHA integrates into the retinal membrane structures that the lutein and zeaxanthin from spinach and eggs are protecting. These are not isolated nutrients, they are a nutritional ecosystem. That ecosystem's thinking is exactly why the top 3 foods on this list are particularly powerful, because each of them targets a completely different layer of the problem. Number 3, blueberries. Everything we have discussed so far works outside the retina or at the level of nutrients getting into the retina. Blueberries do something that most other antioxidant foods simply cannot do. The active compounds in blueberries can cross the blood-retinal barrier. The blood-retinal barrier is the eye's version of the blood-brain barrier. It is an extremely selective filter that controls what can and cannot enter retinal tissue from the bloodstream. Most molecules, including many well-marketed antioxidants, cannot cross it. They circulate in your blood. They may have benefits elsewhere. But they cannot get inside the retina where the oxidative damage is actually happening. Blueberries contain a class of compounds called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are the pigments that give blueberries their deep blue-purple color, and they are one of the very few antioxidant compounds that can cross the blood-retinal barrier and operate inside retinal tissue directly. And once they are inside, they do something remarkable. Rather than simply acting as antioxidants themselves, scavenging a free radical here and there, anthocyanins upregulate your retina's own antioxidant enzyme systems. They turn up the production of superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase, your body's own internal antioxidant machinery. They do not just fight the fire. They make your fire department stronger. A study published in the journal Molecular Vision showed a 40% reduction in oxidative damage to retinal pigment epithelial cells using anthocyanin-rich extracts. That is the RPE, the cleaning crew. being directly protected from oxidative damage by blueberry compounds. Anthocyanins also improve endothelial function, the health and responsiveness of the blood vessel lining throughout the body, including in those fragile retinal capillaries. A meta-analysis found that berry consumption improved flow-mediated dilation, a key measure of vascular health, in adults over 50. The good news is that you do not need fresh blueberries for this. Freezing preserves anthocyanin content extremely well. Frozen blueberries bought in bulk are one of the most cost-effective sources of this compound available anywhere. Half a cup per day is the intake supported by the research. Regina blends frozen blueberries into Greek yogurt every morning, a combination that takes 30 seconds to prepare and delivers a meaningful dose of anthocyanins, protein, and probiotics simultaneously. Number 2. Walnuts. At first glance, walnuts might seem like an odd choice for an eye health list. They are not particularly high in lutein. They do not contain DHA directly. So why are they ranked number 2? Because the number 1 risk factor for retinal capillary damage in seniors is not what you eat for dinner last night. It is what your blood sugar has been doing to those fragile vessels for years. And walnuts have more clinically supported evidence for improving blood sugar control and endothelial function together than almost any other single food. A randomized controlled trial showed that daily walnut consumption over 6 months significantly improved endothelial function and lowered HbA1c, the 3-month average blood sugar marker. Lowering HbA1c means less glycation of retinal capillary walls. Less glycation means healthier vessels. Healthier vessels means better oxygen and nutrient delivery to your photoreceptors. It is the upstream fix that makes everything else work better. Walnuts also have the highest antioxidant activity of any nut tested, driven by their content of gamma-tocopherol, a form of vitamin E that is more biologically active than the alpha-tocopherol in most supplements, plus ellagic acid and a complex of polyphenols. And here is the piece that genuinely surprised researchers. The polyphenols in walnuts are metabolized by gut bacteria into a compound called urolithin A. Urolithin A promotes a process called mitophagy, the selective removal and recycling of damaged mitochondria inside cells. In RPE cells specifically, damaged mitochondria accumulate with age and are considered one of the key drivers of AMD progression. A study published in Nature Medicine highlighted urolithin A as a significant potential intervention for age-related cellular decline in exactly this context. You are not just eating an antioxidant. You are feeding the gut bacteria that produce a compound that helps your retinal cleaning crew recycle its own damaged machinery. A quarter cup, approximately 15 walnut halves, per day is the target amount. Regina keeps a small jar on her kitchen counter and eats them as a mid-morning snack. Simple, consistent, and working on multiple levels every single time. And now number 1, ground flaxseed. If any single food on this list deserves to be in your kitchen starting today, it is ground flaxseed. And the reason it sits at number 1 is not because it is the most impressive food for any single mechanism. It is because it addresses 4 completely separate biological pathways that all converge on retinal health simultaneously. No other common food does that. Let's go through all 4. Pathway 1, blood pressure. Ground flaxseed contains a type of fiber called mucilage, along with the lignin compounds we will discuss in a moment. Clinical trials have shown that regular flaxseed consumption lowers systolic blood pressure by approximately 10 millimeters of mercury and diastolic pressure by approximately 7 millimeters. That is comparable to the effect of some pharmaceutical interventions. High blood pressure is a direct mechanical stressor on retinal capillaries. Every time your heart beats, a pulse of pressure travels through those microscopic vessels. Chronically elevated pressure weakens them, damages their walls, and accelerates exactly the retinal vascular disease we have been discussing throughout this video. Lowering blood pressure through diet directly reduces that mechanical stress on your retina. Pathway 2. Inflammation. Flax seeds are the single richest dietary source of compounds called lignans, specifically a lignan called retinal diglucoside. These lignans are metabolized by gut bacteria into anti-inflammatory compounds that modulate something called NF-kappa B. NF-kappa B is considered the master regulator of chronic inflammation in the body. It is specifically implicated in the pathways that drive AMD, diabetic retinopathy, and glaucoma. Compounds from flaxseed lignans essentially turn down the volume on the inflammatory signaling that is quietly accelerating retinal degeneration. Pathway 3. Glycemic control. The mucilage fiber in flaxseed slows intestinal glucose absorption. When you eat ground flaxseed with a meal, the fiber forms a gel-like substance in your digestive tract that slows the rate at which glucose enters your bloodstream. This blunts post-meal blood sugar spikes, the same spikes that cause glycation damage to your retinal capillaries. Adding 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed to your morning eggs reduces the glycemic impact of that meal, and over time, reduces the cumulative damage those blood sugar fluctuations are causing to your retinal vessels. Pathway 4. Omega-3 supply. Flax seeds contain the highest concentration of alpha-linolenic acid, the plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, of any food on Earth. 1 teaspoon of ground flaxseed provides 1.6 grams of ALA. While ALA does not convert to DHA as efficiently as the EPA and DHA from wild salmon, it still contributes to the overall omega-3 availability in your body and complements the retinal membrane support provided by the salmon we discussed earlier. Blood pressure, inflammation, blood sugar, omega-3 supply, 4 pathways, 1 food, 2 tablespoons per day. But here is the critical preparation detail that determines whether you get any benefit at all. Whole flax seeds pass through your digestive system almost entirely intact. The seed coat is so tough that your body cannot break it down. You will absorb essentially none of the ALA, none of the lignans, and none of the fiber benefits from whole flax seeds. You must use ground flaxseed. Buy it pre-ground or grind it yourself in a coffee grinder and store it in the refrigerator. This is not optional. It is the difference between a powerful therapeutic food and an expensive placebo. Regina started adding 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed to her morning scrambled eggs with spinach. The combination required 0 additional cooking time. She already had the pan on the stove. She just added the flaxseed to the eggs as they cooked. Now let's talk about how to put all 7 of these together in a way that is actually manageable for real daily life. On Monday, start with scrambled eggs and sautéed spinach with 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. The fat from the eggs enhances the lutein absorption from the spinach. The flaxseed works on blood pressure, inflammation, blood sugar, and omega-3 simultaneously. This is the most nutritionally dense single meal on this entire plan, and it takes 8 minutes to prepare. On Tuesday, have 4 ounces of wild-caught salmon with a baked sweet potato and either butter or olive oil. The DHA and EPA from the salmon support photoreceptor, membrane structure, and resolve retinal inflammation. The beta-carotene from the sweet potato converts to vitamin A for rhodopsin regeneration. The fat from the butter or olive oil maximizes that beta-carotene absorption. On Wednesday, have Greek yogurt with half a cup of frozen blueberries and a quarter cup of walnuts. The anthocyanins from the blueberries cross the blood-retinal barrier and strengthen your internal antioxidant defense. The walnuts lower blood sugar markers and deliver urolithin A precursors to support RPE mitochondrial health. The yogurt provides protein and gut bacteria that make these benefits possible in the first place. Thursday, Repeat Monday's eggs, spinach, and flaxseed breakfast. Consistency of nutrient delivery is as important as the nutrients themselves. Your retina needs a steady supply of these compounds, not occasional bursts. Friday, prepare wild salmon again with a different preparation, perhaps with a salad that includes spinach and walnuts. You are combining the top 3 foods with the number 1 food simultaneously in a single meal. This is a nutritional convergence point in your week. Saturday, roast sweet potato with olive oil and serve it alongside 2 eggs, optionally with spinach. Another fat-soluble nutrient absorption opportunity with the added bonus of vitamin A, lutein, and zeaxanthin in 1 plate. Sunday, return to the yogurt, blueberries, and walnuts combination from Wednesday and sprinkle ground flaxseed over any meal of your choice. This is not a strict diet. This is not a protocol that requires calorie counting or measuring. It is 7 foods rotated through a week in ways that are genuinely enjoyable to eat, that collectively address every major biological mechanism driving age-related vision deterioration. Regina followed a version of this plan for 14 months. At her follow-up appointment, her optometrist found measurable reduction in drusen size and 0 progression of her macular degeneration. The same doctor who had told her there was nothing to do, nothing to try, just wait and watch. Now I need to give you an important safety note before we close, because some of what we have discussed today interacts with medications that many seniors take. Wild-caught salmon, walnuts, and ground flaxseed all have mild, natural anticoagulant properties. On their own, in dietary amounts, this is generally beneficial. It contributes to healthier blood flow through those fragile retinal capillaries. But if you are currently taking blood-thinning medications, warfarin, Coumadin, Eliquis, Plavix, or similar drugs, introducing significantly higher amounts of these foods alongside your medication warrants a conversation with your prescribing physician. Not because these foods are dangerous in themselves, but because the combination can affect your INR levels and bleeding time in ways that should be monitored. Additionally, if you are taking ARED supplements that contain vitamin E, and you begin adding these foods in meaningful quantities while on blood thinners, that triple combination specifically requires INR monitoring. The vitamin E in many AREDS formulas, combined with the natural anticoagulant compounds in these foods, combined with pharmaceutical blood thinners, is a combination your doctor should know about. The general direction of this dietary shift is protective and beneficial. The monitoring piece is simply responsible medicine. Tell your doctor what you are doing. Bring this information to your next appointment. A doctor who is paying attention will appreciate the specificity of what you are asking about. Now here is something else that often undermines all of this dietary work. And it happens while you are asleep. Between approximately 2 and 6 in the morning, your liver releases stored glucose and your cortisol levels begin rising in preparation for waking. This causes a measurable increase in blood sugar that has nothing to do with what you ate for dinner. It is called the dawn phenomenon. And for many seniors with borderline blood sugar regulation, this overnight spike is quietly undoing the vascular protection their daytime diet is building. You can eat perfectly during the day and still be having retinal capillary damage during the night because of what your blood sugar is doing in the early morning hours. This is a significant and under-addressed piece of the eye health puzzle, and it is something worth discussing in detail with your physician, particularly if your fasting blood sugar readings have been creeping upward even while your diet has improved. Here is what I want you to do right now before this video ends. Look at the 7 foods we covered today: spinach, eggs, wild-caught salmon, sweet potatoes, blueberries, walnuts, ground flaxseed. Go through that list and ask yourself, which of these am I already eating regularly? And which one, if you added just one thing this week, would be the easiest to start with? Drop your answer in the comments below. Which food are you starting with, and which of these were you not already eating? I read every single comment, and I will respond personally to questions about which of these might apply to your specific situation, including whether any supplements you are currently taking are actually supported by evidence for your stage of eye health. If you know someone over 60 who is currently spending money on eye supplements, or who has been told by a doctor that there is nothing to do for their early macular degeneration, share this video with them. Not because it replaces medical care, it does not, but because the information in this video, the mechanisms, the clinical evidence, the practical meal approach, this is information that can genuinely change the trajectory of someone's vision health, and they deserve to have it. The next video coming up covers something equally important: the common breakfast foods that are causing silent blood sugar spikes in seniors every single morning, damaging not just the eyes, but the kidneys, the heart, and the brain, all before 9 a.m. If you thought today's video was eye-opening, that one will genuinely change how you start your day. Your vision is worth fighting for, and now you know exactly what to fight with. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos.